Hey y'all, CB Phillips, NBS Welding. This is the anvil that I got from my buddy Chip Pletcher. That gouge right there is probably the worst mark on it. I posted a picture of this on my welding web. There were a lot of responses. A lot of the guys said they wanted to get a better look at the top to tell about the condition. When I first got this, I didn't really realize what I had and the history to it. There was a funny story with it that Chip told me. As far back as we know, the anvil belonged to a man named Bill Eskew, and he sold the anvil to a man named Calvin Bailey. Calvin Bailey gave it to Chip Pletcher, which is the buddy of mine that gave it to me. What it says right there, Peter Wright patented 1015. I don't know how that's going to turn out. But the funny story with this anvil that Chip told me, it belonged to Bill Eskew, and he sold it to Calvin Bailey. Calvin and Bill was hanging out at Bill's garage drinking liquor, and Calvin bought the anvil off of Bill, and the two of them, they loaded the anvil in the trunk of Calvin's car, and they ran out of liquor and they were going somewhere else. Bill jumped in his ride, Calvin jumped in his car, and they took off wherever they were going. There was a big brake check on the way. A dog, Bill was in front of Calvin. Calvin had the anvil in the trunk of his car. A dog ran out in the road in front of Bill, and Bill locked up the brakes. Well, Calvin didn't stop so fast, so he smashed into the rear end of Bill's car. Well, when he did, this anvil that was in the trunk of Calvin's car, it went through the back seat into the center of Calvin's car. And that was the funny story that Chip told me about the thing. That was, Calvin always told Chip that he paid for this anvil 3 times because he bought the anvil, then he had to fix the rear end of Bill's car, and then he had to fix the front end in the center of his car. And when Chip told me that story and asked me, he's like, I got this old anvil, I don't want it, or you want it for your shop? I said, sure. That's a neat story. I'll be telling that story forever, Well, I went up and got the anvil out of Chip's barn. And the story got more interesting as it went, because I found these marks on it where it said Peter Wright, patented. And this 1015, that's how they did the weight way back then. And of course, you see markings on something old, you Google it. So I Googled it. Also put a picture up on my welding web, and some of the guys chimed in, sent links, different things that I got more information about it. Well, come to find out, I could actually pin down when this anvil was made within 8 years. all of this anvil was made in England. All of the Peter Wright anvils that were made later than 1852 said the word patent, like this one does. If it was 1851 or before that, it wouldn't say patented, it would just say Peter Wright. All of the anvils made from 1861 and newer had a stamp on it underneath of the name right here that would say wrought iron, because within those 8 years there was a lot of companies making cheap anvils out of cast iron, which is not as good. It's brittle, it'll break. And Peter Wright's anvils are not cast. This is a wrought iron, solid, puddled, made out of pig iron anvil. Well, since this says patented, and it does not have the wrought iron sticker or stamp underneath of it, that means this anvil was made between 1852 and 1860. When I found that out and realized this is at minimum 154 years old, that just blew my mind. I mean, you imagine all the horseshoes that's been made on this thing, all the tools that's been made on this thing, the fact that it probably came here in the bottom of a rickety old ship, you know, it's a long ways between here and England. And this number, the 1 space 0 space 15, that has to do with the weight of the anvil. After Peter Wright built an anvil, they would weigh it on a balance, an old, balance scale. The first number as a 1, the first number is a British hundredweight. Well, a British hundredweight is 112 pounds. Your second number is a quarter weight. So quarter weight would be 28 pounds, and then the third number is just pounds. So when you have a 1, 0, 15, you have 100 weight, which is 112 pounds, no quarter weight, because this is 0, and 15, which is 15 pounds. So you add that together, this is a 127 pound Peter Wright anvil made in England between 1852 and 1860. Just think it's neat to have something that old. Some of the guys on Welding Web have mentioned, like with this gouge, that you can fill that with an arc welder and resurface it. I wouldn't dream of doing that. I can tell, I've done enough welding that I can tell from looking at it, no one has welded on this before, and there's 5 arc welders on this property, and I guarantee you not a single one of them is going to be welding on this. I'm not doing nothing to it. I've power brushed the rust off of it, I've wiped it down with oil, and I'm going to beat on it with a hammer. That's all I'm going to do to it. I love it just the way it is, and I'm real fortunate to have it. Thanks to Chip for giving it to me, and thanks to all the guys on Welding Web that put posts on with information. If the video turns out to show the surface of the anvil pretty good, I'll put it on Welding Web, maybe I'll put it on Facebook. Pretty cool. Anyway, over and out.